Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy. Joining me this morning, Hartwell. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris. Good morning, everyone.
So, we had fun yesterday trying to decide what we were going to talk about today. And one of the things that I had mentioned to you was how, when I was exploring the Gene Keys and human design with you, the Gene Keys book um,
Hmm.
struck me was the fact that it correlates to the gates correlate to different parts of the body, which can then be associated with, if you have issues, health issues, or something in that area. So that's what we're decided to talk about today. So, welcome to this little exploration that we're doing. So, with the human design or the gene keys, what does it offer a person who comes to these systems with significant either health issues or mental health issues or physical health issues? How can we use it?
This is such a big question.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the heart of some of the debates between, of course, allopathic medicine and the traditional medical establishment, and those of us who are more into the holistic approach to things.
Right.
Um, Often, if you have these chronic challenges and you wake up to a sense that the traditional way of working with it doesn't seem to be helping you, only masking symptoms. I think that for some people who are experiencing that, they go off on a search, don't they?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Like going to the
Hmm.
medical system to get answers, and they're, no, well, there's nothing wrong with you, or, we
Yeah,
can't find anything, and they can run every test in the book. And then until you start looking within and start discovering that there's actually spiritual layers and emotional layers and things to these different functions within your body, you don't really get to the root of it, right?
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're led on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the human design and the gene keys are potentially a great aid in that exploration
Mm-hmm.
because if we talk about the centers in human design, these are in a sense energetic centers in our body.
Right.
But even more specifically, there have been connections made between the individual gates
Mm-hmm.
and specific body parts.
Mm-hmm.
So human design has made it explicit from the beginning that if you do not follow your strategy and authority,
Mm-hmm.
there are going to be physical repercussions and mental health repercussions for that
Mm-hmm.
misalignment.
Yeah.
And so, how do we realign is the
Mm-hmm.
question.
Right. Because I think when I remember looking at it, it had something called codon rings, the codon ring.
Hmm.
And the codon ring, the way you explained it, was a bunch of gates which formed a certain string of amino acids, which of course would cause a certain reaction within the body. So if something is not functioning within a particular gate, you're interrupting the codon ring or that string of amino acids, which can then turn to disease, you know? So I
Right. A
found that quite
malfunctioning.
interesting. Yeah, well,
Hmm.
because it's like or I think our mentor calls it misfire. You misfire, right? So when you don't
Yes.
respond with your inner authority, right? Hmm.
And so, I mean, and then, or take another example. Let's talk about the ego for a minute. The ego is the
Hmm.
center of willpower, and it is related to, it has four gates. Um, Pointing down to the solar plexus, we have the stomach and we have the heart. But just let's take the heart implication there for a minute. Only 35% of the world are defined in the ego. So that means only 35% of people have access to willpower.
Hmm.
But if we have a not self message alive in the world that says your only value lies in what you do, what you
Mhm.
accomplish, the commitments you make and keep, the promises you make and keep. You need to be willful. You need to make it happen.
Mhm.
If that's the prevailing message that people are they're trying to morph themselves into something they're not designed for. And one of the repercussions of that is heart disease,
Well,
which is
exhaustion.
rampant, especially, pardon me?
You get exhausted, like mentally, physically. Your body is just, you can have all the willpower in the world. I guess I can speak to this one because I've got lots of that in my chart, but it's like you keep going no matter what. But then the body goes, oops, sorry. Like you've got no boundaries. You're not, so I think it makes you stop and analyze, okay, well, yeah, I can do this. Yes, I have lots of motors. I can keep going. I've got lots of willpower. But at what point do I say no? At what point? You know what I mean? Do I pick and choose or discern what is a cause for me to take up and put my energy into and what is not? So,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. So,
because even those who have lots of energy, that energy is not meant just for anything,
yeah, exactly.
right? We've talked about that, I think, on this show somewhere along the
Hmm.
way, that a generator strategy, your body will tell you what you should put energy into.
Hmm.
And if you decide, okay, well, no, I have lots of money in the bank, I have lots of energy, I'm going to do this, and the body, your system has not given you the message that you're aligned with that, then you're going to
Hmm.
end up. It's going to have some effects.
Right. Hmm.
So, I mean, I guess how would you use this information?
Yeah. And what is the link between the individual gates in our bodies? Like, can we go into maybe some examples of, you know,
Hmm.
what some of those are? I know you and I
Uh,
have lots of examples.
you don't mind using yourself as an
No,
example?
I don't.
All right. Well, let us take, say, gate 40, gate 21 as an example.
Hmm.
Or, you always like to talk about gate 40. Gate 40 is the stomach and
Hmm.
the amino acid of glycine.
Hmm.
Do you have, and the 21, which is another one you have, is the lungs.
Hmm.
Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Well, I mean, my problem health wise, physically, from the time I was small, have always been in my stomach. I've had everything from adhesions to having things that the doctors could not diagnose. And a lot of it boils down to the stress of taking on things that are not mine, taking on
Hmm.
responsibilities which are not mine, taking on accountability which is not mine. Um, just wanting people to succeed
Yeah.
in my tribe because I have the channel of community as well. So I want the community to thrive, but I take on too much and I try to do too much myself instead of using the skill of being able to resource and discern what is mine and what is not mine.
Right.
Mhm. So a lot
So
of it is
then, so then, then you get introduced to human design, and it says, oh, a key energy in your chart is gate 40, the gate of
mhm,
aloneness, the gate
mhm,
of being able to work hard for your tribe and family, but also needing breaks. So you
mhm,
discover this, and it's like lo and behold, there is this association of gate 40 with the stomach.
mhm,
So the question is, okay, what do you do with that awareness?
mhm. Well, then you start learning your boundaries and start learning to say no and start learning to discern, is this for me to take up or is it not just because, and then you end up healing the self-sabotaging, oh, I just want them to like me, I want them, I want to do everything for them because then they'll like me. And so you start looking at those things and start healing those things, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, this is where, you know, um, this is where a standard disclaimer would go.
Hmm.
It's like, we are not offering medical advice. Seek to
Hmm.
talk with your expert. So, And that's because there's not necessarily a one-to-one correspondence here, because the mystery of our health and the mystery of our journey through life,
Mhm.
well, it's a mystery, it's
Mhm.
um and so the way I see it is that, oh, that's so interesting, Kris,
Mhm.
because then when you find out the stomach is related to one of your key placements
Mhm.
and that you've had a history of things around your stomach,
Mhm.
then part of your psyche starts to work with that information.
Mhm.
It propels you on your spiritual journey because questions arise, connections arise for you.
Mhm.
Say hi to the people.
Yeah, Oreo. Hi, Oreo. There he is.
um, and so it leads you on a journey, and that journey
Mhm.
is not predictable.
Mhm.
And so that's why it doesn't sound like a prescription from your doctor,
Right.
you know?
But it's a different way of looking at things, I think, and for some people they find that difficult because we've been trained to think that, oh, we go to the doctor when we have something, they'll know what's wrong with me. But I know so many cases of people going to the doctor, and either it takes them years to figure out what's wrong with them, and even then they don't get to the root of the problem. They just start giving them medications and stuff to mask what's really going on. And some of this stuff happened in childhood, the wounds that we
Hmm.
took on, and the operating outside of our, our authority, like our strategy and authority started when we
Yeah.
were very young. So it seems normal to us to operate that way. So it takes a lot of intention for us to actually stop and say, oh, here's a system. Maybe I should look at this because the medical system doesn't work for me. So let me look at this and see if I can make some changes in my life, which will help, ease the issues and problems that I'm having with my physical body. Hmm.
And I think you just used a key word there,
Hmm.
intention.
Hmm.
You know, um, Everything in life develops or arises from intention. And until that intention is activated, you don't go on that journey of healing because it's the
Hmm.
intention what draws life to you and all the answers that you need to you.
Hmm.
I like the way Richard Rudd puts it in his, the lead up discussion to his Gene Keys book. He talks about how there's a digital approach to life
Hmm.
and there's the analog approach. And the digital approach is to break everything down and to look at all of its details and all of its parts.
Hmm.
But the analog approach is to look at systems as a whole, to embrace the holistic view of life.
Hmm.
And so with human design, you can often look at a lot of the parts. It's
Hmm.
complicated and there's lots for the mind to chew on.
Hmm.
But of course, the gene keys is a guide into the energetic
Hmm.
aspect of human design.
I think it
Um,
ties together body, mind, spirit very much when I look at it,
yes.
because I can see the physical body, I can see the emotional body, and I can see the spiritual body when I'm reading the material and tying it together. And that's why,
Mm,
I notice so much the codon rings because we all know how physical I am and how I
yeah.
feel everything in my body physically. And when I look at the gene keys, I can see that. I mean, I can see which amino acids, I can see which parts of my body, I can see
Oh,
how,
really?
yeah, how
Wow.
I'm affecting myself, right, in that way. So I
Hmm.
think it's a very valuable tool. I think it would be valuable for even parents to know. Like, remember being a kid and going, oh, I have a stomach ache, and all these things, and the parents are like, oh no, you don't, right? But if a child is feeling stressed and they're not processing it properly, and their gene key, is tied to the
Hmm.
stomach and a certain amino acid, you're going to want to pay attention because
Yeah.
they need to learn to deal with that so that they don't have issues like me when they grow up, right? You know,
Right.
the sooner you catch that, the better.
And so they can learn how, this is a vocabulary we all need to be using. Are you in a
Mhm.
fear vibration in yourself?
Mhm.
Which means you're going to be your genetic frequency is going to be operating at the shadow level.
Mm-hmm.
How do we raise that frequency in a way that feels like we've got a handle on something and not being just woo woo, you
Yeah.
know? Because
But
I
it
mean,
also, it helps you. Oops, go ahead.
well, just that we want to be, we don't want to be so concerned with outcome
Mm-hmm.
that we forget about process,
Mm-hmm.
because it's often engaging in a process, in a quest,
Mm-hmm.
that delivers us the treasure, that delivers us the outcomes that we want, and delivers us the healing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
And
that's
yet,
important.
pardon?
I think that's important because I can relate that to being injured so young in my life. At 11 months old, being bitten and mauled by a dog, to how that affected my life, where it wasn't dealt with and processed. It was like, okay, patch her up, right? Um, so physically, you patch the person up, but mentally and emotionally, it wasn't dealt with, right?
Right.
So then growing up with fear, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So if we can find a way to affect that side of ourselves,
Hmm.
that's the potential benefit of human design and the gene keys, is that bringing our awareness to the gift level of some of these gates, for instance,
Hmm.
and exploring and letting our mind and letting our consciousness, in a sense, respond to this material and come alive through contemplation, can then lead us into
Hmm.
um, the concrete actions and the healing processes that we need to bring ourselves back into alignment with God's plan for us.
Right. Yeah, that's
It's so
important.
exciting.
Hmm. I mean, there's so many ways that you can go deeper with the gene keys and with the human design system, and it really relates to a whole body approach. I think, like I said, the mind, body, spirit. You can dive into each gate, and you can see how it relates to your mind, your body, and your spirit, and what you need to do to balance that. And for each of us, that's different, right?
It is. I
Yeah.
mean, one thing that arises in this discussion for me is that I know that in a certain state of awareness, all of what we're saying right now seems like incredible gobbledygook. You know, I mean, you and I are immersed in this day by day,
Hmm.
but I
Right.
remember, you know, we have enough people in our lives, and we have our own history to
Hmm.
draw upon. It's like, oh, that's such bullshit. That's such, excuse my
Hmm.
language. That
Hmm.
doesn't make any sense at all. That doesn't compute. I think the
Hmm.
human design potentially and the gene keys with it
Hmm.
could be a foot in the door for people.
Hmm.
It's got a structured language. There are things that you can, in a sense, compare to your own experience. And once you can open that doorway into an understanding of how consciousness affects us so profoundly,
Hmm.
then you can begin on this whole journey of awakening.
Yeah.
So potentially, I think human design and the gene keys could be one of those foots in the door that allows people to gain access to another way of thinking and
Well,
being.
yeah, changing their whole perspective on what we believe, this life really is and what we're here to do, right? I mean, everybody is seeking purpose right now. So that, to me, this is a good way to dive in, to start answering some of those questions for yourself, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like we know that when we wake up, it's almost like an added dimension is added to our life.
Hmm.
it is like, okay, you've got up and down, and then you add a whole other dimension, and it's like all of a sudden the world comes alive, and you can this using language of energy becomes real.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's what the Gene Keys is. It's a language of energy.
Yeah.
But
I
that
think we struggle with language anyways, so it's good to have one.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
it gives us a language that bridges the metaphysical with the physical.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or do you have any final comments before we sign off today?
Um, I would just say, follow the sparks that excite you.
Mm-hmm.
Follow those will-o'-the-wisps, follow those moments of hope and clarity, those moments of epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
And which is very fitting because today, we're in the last day of gate 43 right now. And
Mm-hmm.
gate 43 is the gate of insight,
Mm-hmm.
where people have epiphanies.
Right.
So value your epiphanies
Mm-hmm.
and follow them where they lead you. And they'll lead
Exactly.
you deeper into that, deeper into the unfolding of your own perception and your
Right.
own spirit.
And exactly. And we're always here to help. So if any of you find that this information is important and you want to dive deeper into it, Hartwell is always available here at Clarity. You can give us a call, 587-596-3333, and book an appointment with him. Even after you've had your initial one, you can come in for a consultation and dive deeper into different gates or into the codon rings or whatever you choose. We'd be happy to help you on that journey. So with that, we're going to say goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Bye-bye.